Vanakkam and good evening, sir. Thank you so much for accepting to be with us in this Expert Talks with Hari. This program is segmented into three segments, sir. First segment is all about you, your schooling, your college days, your favorite teachers, your best friends. It revolves around that. The next segment is about Neer Indri Amayada Ulagu. We are going to talk about water resources conservation and reverse restoration, sir. Third one is a little bit surprise segment. I'll explain when we get there, sir. First, we'll start with about you, your childhood, your adolescent, teenage period, sir. Over to you.
Vanakkam, good evening to all of you. First of all, I should inform that I am from Andhra Pradesh, though I worked as Indian Administrative Service Officer of Tamil Nadu from 1987 onwards. I had a very special schooling. In fact, the school started with me. I was the
Wow.
first student of that school, and along with me, a couple of my childhood friends, one by name Devaki Nanda, we joined in that school. And today it is one of the well-established school in Visakhapatnam, in a place called Chinnavalkaya. And during my school, I had a couple of favorite teachers. One is a De Silva teacher. She is from Australia. Uh, she was there with us for about a couple of years, and then she left to Australia. The other teacher is Gilby teacher. In fact, her children also they studied in that school, and one of her daughters by name Colin, she was my classmate. And then the Telugu teacher, Mrs. Malati, also she has been one of my favorite teachers. Subsequently, we have gone to Guntur because my father has been transferred to the present Nagarjuna University. Those days it was a PG center which was part of Andhra University. My father, he was a professor by name Professor Korlapati Sriramamurthy in Telugu literature. So because of his transfer, we had been to Guntur, and there I did my matriculation in Ravi Tutorial College, and then AC College, Andhra Christian College. I did my intermediate and first year degree. Then subsequently, we moved back to Visakhapatnam, where I completed my BSc in Mrs. Avian College, where I had a couple of favorite teachers, particularly Mr. Sivaramakrishnan, Mr. Babu Rao, who taught us zoology, and one Mr. Vijayabhaskar. Then I joined in Andhra University during my MSc for doing my masters in zoology. Obviously, my most favorite teacher happened to be Professor Hanumantrao, under whose guidance subsequently I joined for PhD. And my co-director was C. Vijayalakshmi. Actually, I registered with Vijayalakshmi, and Professor Hanumantrao was my co-director. In fact, I was very passionate to become a professor, just like my father, who has been a Sahitya Academy Award winner as well as a UGC Emeritus professor. And all along, my childhood dream was to become a professor in Andhra University or in any other university. But subsequently, due to different turns of events, I got into the service. And during my post-graduation, I had very close friends. One by name M. Srinivas Rao, the other one by name K. Srinivas Rao, then one Mr. Vijayabhaskar, and a whole lot of my classmates. Many of them are very close. One Mrs. Sita, then Mrs. Padmini Raju, then Mrs. Radha, and so on. And Mr. Anjali, we had a lot of friends. Our MSc is a very big batch. But when it came to research, very few of us joined research. And in fact, I was one of the youngest to complete PhD in Andhra University. I finished by 23 years. In fact, that gave me an elbow room to prepare for civil service after I finished my PhD. And in the year 1985, I took the exam. And that first attempt, I was in group services. And in the 86 exam, I qualified for IAS. And I've been allotted Tamil Nadu cadre. After that, my career, initially I had training in Virudhunagar. Then I started as an officer in Hosur subdivision as sub-collector. And I held a different position. And some of them very important positions are, I was the founding collector of Theni district, which has been bifurcated from Madurai. I was the first director of Department of Environment. I was also the first Director General of National Institute of Plant Health Management, which is part of Ministry of Agriculture and Farmers Welfare Department, Government of India. And then the last assignment before I retired was State Relief Commissioner and Commissioner Revenue Administration for about 3 years. And all along, right from my sub-collector days, I was very much interested in water conservation and tree plantation. And several strategies I could learn, develop them further, and then improvise, and then implement it. Fortunately, in this service, we have the opportunity of both policy making as well as implementation, monitoring, review, and evaluation. So I could see the entire gamut of events in the government and held various positions. This is what in brief about myself. And in the service, I have few very close friends. One is my batchmate, Dr. Somanathan, who is the Expenditure Secretary in Government of India currently. And then among the juniors, I have a couple of them, the present Commissioner of Revenue Administration, Mr. Paninda Reddy, Dr. Sai Kumar, who is the Chief Minister's Office. And then among the very juniors, I have one Mr. Siddiq, and then Dr. Umanath, Mr. Brajendra Navneet, and a couple of others. And among the senior officers, I need to mention the kind of guidance and grooming that we have received. One is Mr. P.V. Rajaraman, who was our Finance Secretary. Then Mr. N. Narayanan, who was also both Finance Secretary as well as Chief Secretary. Mrs. Shanta Sheila Nair, she is again a great leader in the water sector. And many other senior officers who have played an important role in encouraging us, in supporting us when we took certain tough stands. And then always they were with us, and they have also guided.
Thank you, sir. What were the key lessons in this journey, sir? Because it's an interesting journey where you said being the first student and then being the first collector in Theni after the bifurcation, all these areas. Definitely there have been some challenges and you would have overcome it. So what were the key challenges, like if you encapsulate this phase of your life, if you could mention.
Okay. So during student days, in fact, I wouldn't say that I faced too many challenges. And I've always been a very studious student. And my father had great faith in me and always used to encourage me in whichever field I have chosen. As far as the service is concerned, definitely this is not a bed of roses. It could be a bed of roses with thorns also. There will be several occasions where you may have to cross swords or take a deviant path than what is expected by the political executive. But when I look back for about my 33 years of service in Tamil Nadu, the lesson I can probably pass on to the youngsters is, if an officer is what he is and what he wants to be, and he establishes his reputation that he follows rule book uniformly for everyone, the kind of respect the political executive will have for those officers, it is very hard to believe by outsiders. I have seen it. I did face certain occasions where within 2.5 months I have been transferred, of which 21 days I was outside the country also. Very frequently I was transferred. But at the same time, when the government wanted certain important things to be done, they always look for the officers who have special skills, who are competent, who are straight, who are honest, and definitely they will also have their opportunities. And the other thing which I learned and which I could probably pass on to the youngsters is, there is no post which can be considered as unimportant. Every position that the government has, it offers sufficient opportunities for making a significant contribution in the lives of the common man. Once we take it that way, definitely I think we will get our chances where we will be busy 24/7, but there can be certain occasions where you are underworked with reference to your own potential. But this is part of life. So that time, probably it is a time for you to just step back, have a look at what you have done, and probably try to improve your own strategies. And in the process, in fact, when I was very young, I used to be very abrasive. If anyone used to ask me to do a particular thing, if it is as per the rules, I used to do it with express speed. Even if a political executive asks, if it can be done in a week's time, I will try to do it in a 2 days' time. But if it is not within the rule book, I never used to accept a request from any quarter. In fact, when I was young, I used to be very abrasive. I used to immediately tell it's not possible. It is against the rules. But over a period of time, I also learned that when someone is making a, a, a particular request to you, they may have their own compulsions. So rather than outright saying that I won't do it, it's against the rules, the simpler way probably is in a very polite manner. It appears that it is not within the rules, but anyway, I will try to check up and I'll get back to you. And this will actually give a sufficient comfort factor to the other person who is trying to make a request. They will also understand that once this officer, his reputation is known, they will know after some time, and they will not even disturb with some with requests which are not considered to be within the rules. So this is something which is very interesting. Contrary to the perception, once again I repeat, political executive, they have a lot of respect for officers who are straight, who follow the rule book, and who are efficient. There may be occasions they may be transferring you out quickly, but there will be occasions where you will be given an opportunity to have a long innings. In fact, the first time in my 33 years in Tamil Nadu, I completed 3 years posting, only in my last posting in the service. Whereas in Government of India, the tenure is more secure. You are selected for a particular post and you will be there for 5 years, except in rarest of the rare circumstances. But in the last assignment here in Tamil Nadu, I completed 3 years, and it was a great opportunity given by Tamil Nadu, which enabled me to put certain systems in place to address the both flood and drought risks in Tamil Nadu, especially with reference to the problems that were faced in Chennai during 2015. I am extremely happy to say that I got this opportunity given by the government, which I could make use of to put certain robust systems, and we have addressed certain major problems. And I am extremely confident to say that even if there is a repetition of 2015 rains, the flood impact will be much, much, much lesser in several locations. Whatever we do, there is still scope for improvement. In fact, we have lined up a project for about 3,000 crores, which we are posing for international funding. And once that project is implemented, the risk reduction will come down further. But we have identified all the major problems, and we have focused on preparedness, so much so that the preparedness and other practices adopted by Government of Tamil Nadu have been considered as best practices at the all India level. NDMA has published 2 volumes, one on Varda cyclone and the other one on Gaja cyclone, where they violated the best practices adopted in Tamil Nadu for examination by other state governments.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Now we move on to the next segment, which is the title, Neerindri Ameyada Ulagu, where the world doesn't exist without water, where we will be discussing about water resource conservation and reverse restoration in pertinence to Tamil Nadu, sir. All the initiatives from what were existing, what was initiated by you, and how it is processing, sir. Over to you.
Yeah. You have absolutely, what you have said is absolutely right. Without water, there is no life. As a biology student, I know that every organism, nearly most of the cell, all the cells will have a great percentage of fluids, which is nothing but water. In fact, the other important quote which I would like to recall in this context will be, yes. Though as an Indian, definitely we always have the rancor or the rule of British. But at the same time, there are a few officers among the British who have done human service. And one among them is Sir Arthur Cotton. Okay. Sir Arthur Cotton, he said, water is liquid gold. Unfortunately, even today, we don't realize water to be as liquid gold. If we can consider it to be liquid gold, our perception and our usage will be completely different. The other officer, and again another engineer with reference to Tamil Nadu, is Pennyquick. Mr. Pennyquick again is very great because he has deviated from the existing pattern while constructing a dam across Periyar. When he realized that normal impounding will, you can impound the water, but the surplus water or even for release of irrigation, it just goes into the valley. It will be of no use in Kerala. So he dug a tunnel, which is a new concept, and then he brought the water to Tamil Nadu. Today, if you have a very green Kambam Valley, then water is going up to Ramanathapuram, not only meeting the irrigation needs, but also the drinking water needs, it is all because of Mr. Peniquit. So one is valuing water, the other one is innovation to see that you are able to conserve and augment water resources. So these are two things which have had a very lasting impression on my mind. And I was again very fortunate in Tamil Nadu as subcollector Osur. I was having a development project which most of the other subcollectors do not have. And right from my subcollector days, I was focusing on watershed management, where the focus is on soil and moisture conservation. Tamil Nadu, its administration is considered to be one of the best at the national level. And there are several projects which have been implemented over the years for conservation of water. In fact, Tamil Nadu is the first state where rainwater harvesting at the domestic, at the residential level has been launched. It was a movement during former Chief Minister, Mrs. Selvi Jayalalitha. And then Shanta Shillanai, Madam, she was the officer in charge of that. And then again, the present Chief Minister, he has launched a water mission in 2019, wherein he has given a new focus for this water conservation. He put the farmer in the center of this effort, and he has launched two major schemes. In both the schemes I have been involved. One is GOMS 50. Under this government order, the silt that has been accumulated over the years for hundreds of years in most of these irrigation tanks in Tamil Nadu. We have a whole lot of these tanks in all the districts in Tamil Nadu. We have to thank the visionary approach of the former kings, especially the Chola kings. They have built a large number of minor irrigation tanks, that too in a cascading fashion. But unfortunately, the silt has been accumulating over the years. And the silt is actually a very vital nutrient for the agriculture fields. But this, the farmer had to pay. He had to pay a seigniorage fee and the mineral cost to the government, which was beyond their means. So the present Chief Minister, he took a decision to give the tank silt, when Tamil Nadu, in Tamil it is called as Vandalman, free of cost to the farmers. And all the farmers had to do is they had to bring a tractor and then pay for the excavation charge, and then take it and put it on their agriculture fields. In fact, I was the nodal officer at the state level as Commissioner Revenue Administration. So we talked to the collectors, and then we helped the farmers through corporate social responsibility to meet even the cost of excavation. And over a period of 2.5 years, we have removed nearly 7.8 crore cubic meters of tank silt and given it to 6.5 lakh farmers. By this effort alone, the augmentation of water capacity is almost 2.75 TMC of water. In addition to that, because the silt has been removed, the recharge capacity of the tanks, the groundwater recharge, has increased immensely. This we have done with a approach to both manage floods during heavy rains, as well as to prevent drought. Whatever little rainwater is there, we were ensuring that it is captured into the minor irrigation tanks. For that, what we have done is we ensured that all the supply channels to these minor irrigation tanks are desilted. If there are any encroachments, a large number of encroachments have been removed. Government also has been very specific to give instructions to the collectors that encroachments in the waterways and water bodies should be removed. Even Honorable High Court of Madras, they have passed an order directing the collectors that they will be made responsible for removing all the encroachments in the water bodies and the waterways. In addition to this, last year, Honorable Chief Minister, he has launched a water mission in Tamil Nadu. And here the focus is again rainwater harvesting, both at the residential, institutional, as well as in the field, where we were constructing large number of check dams and other things. And last 3.5 years, Kudimaramat scheme has been sanctioned by the Chief Minister, where the farmers have to make a contribution of only 10% of the cost, and they have been given the responsibility of executing the works. And under this scheme, a whole lot of improvements have been made to these minor irrigation tanks. In several places, we found the sluices and other important structures which are essential for impounding the waters have been damaged since no major repairs have been taken up. So they have been reconstructed. Where repair is sufficient, we could do repairs. And the tank bunds have been strengthened. The field channel has been made a concrete structure, and wherever protection wall or a retaining wall is required to prevent any breach based on the past history, those structures have also been provided. The GOMS number 50 is continuing. In addition to that, the government has launched special schemes to ensure that the drinking water supply to all the habitations is ensured as per the standards. We have given a special focus on Chennai. As all of you are aware, Chennai not only faced the maximum flood damage during 2015, whereas in 2017 and in 2019, it faced severe drought and severe acute drinking water crisis. We could manage these things with a combination of different strategies. And one of the most important strategies that Government of Tamil Nadu has adopted is it focused on long-term mitigation. So it has ensured that all the waterways, the rivers, they are all protected, the encroachments removed, construction of riverine reservoirs, check dams, all these things we have done. And in the last 1.5 years, we have sanctioned and works are going on where nearly about 1.5 to 2 TMC of water augmentation took place. Each TMC of water will be sufficient for meeting the drinking water requirements of the entire Greater Chennai Corporation for 1 month. Now, this year, another scheme has been launched in Viluppuram district, Marakanam, Paruveli. Similarly, augmentation schemes have been done in Viranam and other places. The other project which we have constructed in Thervai Kandrigai, the structure is complete, where we can store almost about 1 TMC water when water is released by Andhra Pradesh government. In addition, Government of Tamil Nadu is trying to link rivers within Tamil Nadu on one hand. On the other hand, it is trying to, with the help of Government of India, try to ensure a linkage between Godavari, Kaveri and other major rivers, so that Tamil Nadu, which is at the tail end of all these river systems, which will get sufficient water once these projects are implemented. In addition to this, Government of Tamil Nadu has launched a project called Narandai Vari Kaveri, where Kaveri will not only be restored to its original primacy, the pollution load that is getting into the river system in different stretches will be addressed, for which multi-departmental approach is being adopted. And one segment of the work will be undertaken by the Water Resources Corporation, which I am currently heading. Another major project which our Chief Minister has launched is climate resilient infrastructure. Under this project, we have identified areas which are under stress due to seawater intrusion, which is not only impacting the agriculture lands, but also the drinking water sources. So therefore, the government has sanctioned funds for construction of tail-end regulators, which will ensure that during the rainy season, the fresh water is impounded, which will push back the seawater that has introduced into the system, and also it prevents further ingression into the fertile areas. So one can go on, a whole lot of schemes are being implemented. And one of the major things is, as part of the disaster management plan, I'm extremely happy to inform you, in 2017, we have prepared a plan, which is a perspective plan, which covered the period 2018 to 2030, co-terminus with Sendai framework, which has been adopted by more than 150 countries, whereas it was adopted in 2015, and the period is 2015 to 2030. So we did this in 2017. Our Chief Minister, who is the chairman of the Tamil Nadu State Disaster Management Authority, has, under his chairmanship, this perspective plan has been approved. And we are the only state, I think, as on date, which is having a perspective plan. In fact, in this plan, we have adopted a systems approach where rivers are the units. And along with the river systems, we also felt that the interface ecosystems which join the oceans, they are also very vital for flood mitigation, as well as storing water for groundwater recharge and all. And we have given some specific timelines. Whole lot of ongoing projects have been listed in this plan. This plan is a public document. And what are the schemes that government is going to take over the next decade and a half have been listed out in that. And I am confident that once this plan is implemented, it will not only address the flood problem, it will ensure that even during deficit rainfall, the drinking water requirements, as well as the farmers who are dependent on some support of irrigation from the river systems, their agriculture also is protected.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. That was a detailed manner. You explained all the areas where we have intervened and how it's going to impact in longer term. So, also about this project where less water for more plantation could be done. Can we talk on that? I have a video on that. Can I play that first?
Please, please.
Okay.
Under the MGNREG scheme, a large number of saplings were planted and tended by following the innovative watering technique suggested by Dr. K. Satyagopal, IAS. From the pictures, it can be seen that the saplings planted as per the new method grew much better and taller than the seedlings planted as per the conventional methods. He has now brought some important changes to the watering technique to suit the requirement of fruit-bearing trees. In the 2 feet by 2 feet by 2 feet pit dug for planting sapling, an additional hole of 1 foot depth is drilled using an auger. Depending on the type of the soil, if required, more holes may be drilled in the corners. If an auger is not available, a crowbar can be used for making the hole or holes. The hole is filled with 1 or 2 handfuls of seed vermicompost or organic manure and then with river sand. Later, 4 PVC pipes with 4-inch diameter may be placed above the holes and in the pit, as shown in the picture. Seed vermicompost or organic manure is mixed with a dugout soil, and 3/4 of the pit must be filled. Then a small pit must be made as shown. The pit is filled with 2 handfuls of unseeded vermicompost or organic manure, and the saplings is planted. The pit must then be fully covered with the dugout soil. Now, 2 handfuls of seed vermicompost or organic manure must be poured into the PVC pipes, which must then be filled with river sand or any other water absorbent material. Then, all the 4 PVC pipes must be carefully removed and the sapling watered. The water percolates down and keeps the root zone always moist. The sapling will have a lush and healthy growth. Besides reducing evaporation losses, water requirement will also come down. Farmers who are not able to access the irrigation system can also adopt this method in their fields and take advantage of this innovative watering method to grow the saplings better. Farmers adopting drip irrigation system can plant the saplings as suggested in this new method. Water from drip irrigation system percolates easily to the entire root zone up to 3 feet below through the 4 sand columns.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Okay. Now you can explain, sir. We would like to listen from.
Yeah. See, actually, this is again quite interesting. When I was sub-collector Hosur, when I was traveling from Hosur to Dharmapuri, I used to watch in the fields the horticulture department adopting a pitcher irrigation, where for mango plantations they used to put a pitcher by the side of a mango sapling. And I used to feel very uncomfortable because most of the time the pitcher is to be above the ground, and the quantum of water that can go down below will be only up to half a foot or so. So then I designed a tubular earthen vessel, and in a place called Matagiri, where a cattle farm is there, government cattle farm, which is second largest in the country, I planted 9,000 bamboo seedlings using this tubular earthen vessel, where at the bottom of the 2 feet tube, we put a small hole and plugged it with cotton. And when the sapling was planted, this was put by its side. And then what irrigation is done in this particular structure. In fact, the 9,000 saplings, they have grown exceptionally well, and subsequently cattle farm has earned a lot of revenue from the harvest of bamboo. In fact, it was one of the very satisfying thing for me. But I dropped that idea because I felt it will be very expensive for the small and marginal farmer, especially the rainfed farmer. And I moved on to experimenting various other things. But in the year 2016, as I said earlier, there was an occasion where I was in a position where I could reflect, I could think, I could conceptualize about projects because the day-to-day office work was much less. Then when I was thinking how to increase the water retention in the rainfed areas, suddenly it struck me, why the hell I have wasted almost 2.5 decades. A simple technique can help the farmers to take water up to 2 feet depth. So what now we are doing in this is, at the time of planting the trees, and the four corners, or depending upon the tree, if only one column is enough, you can put only one PVC pipe, just fill up the pit normally, mix with manure and others as is done normal plantation. And after the sapling is planted, now in the PVC pipes, whether 1, 2, 3 or 4, first you will fill it up half a foot with vermicompost or manure, whichever is available. And in the remaining column, you will fill it with river sand. It can be any other water absorbent material, but I personally feel river sand is the best. And once the filling is done and the compaction is done around the sapling, the PVC pipe can be removed. Once you remove the PVC pipe, in the pit there are sand columns, and at the bottom of the sand column there will be manure also. So now the seedling, as it goes, once you pour the water, the river sand absorbs the water immediately, and once the column is saturated, it releases water horizontally. So the entire pit, the entire root zone is always moist, as a result of which the plant is having the nutrients which are supplied at the time of plantation, as well as moisture at lower feet. See, if you notice, if even during even for drip irrigation, the water will not go more than half a foot, unless you are having a subsurface drip, which will be very, very, very expensive. Here, with this sand column method, if you are putting 4 columns, the maximum cost will be about 15 to 20 rupees per tree. And if you are planting 100 in 1 acre, it will be about 1,500 to 2,000 rupees. Whereas drip irrigation, it will be costing anywhere between 30,000 to 60,000 rupees, depending upon the type of PVC pipes that are used. And when compared with the drip irrigation also, here the evaporation losses are very, very minimal, and the moisture is the water is taken up to 2 feet, and retention of the moisture is there for a longer period. As a result of which, the water requirement is much less than even drip irrigation. In fact, drip irrigation plays a very important role. In fact, I forgot to mention earlier, Government of Tamil Nadu also popularizes water conserving drip irrigation systems in agriculture and horticulture fields. So this is an improvement over that. And my main focus was to help the small and marginal farmers, those who cannot afford drip irrigation. Once they put these columns in place, the growth of the trees, in fact, it was surprising for me also. Though I was very confident that the survival will be better, we were stunned actually to see the difference in growth. From the pictures probably you might have seen, the difference range anywhere between 4 feet to 14 feet in respect of certain species. Different categories of trees are responding differently. Timber species, the growth difference is huge. Flowering trees, again, the growth difference is huge. Whereas neem and then pungam, it's ranging between 5 to 8 feet, depending upon the soil also. And what we notice is this can be used in any type of soil and all tree types. Then subsequently, we experimented it with climbers, especially farmers who grow vegetables like bottle gourd, ridge gourd, bitter gourd, snake gourd, watermelon fruit, and then other pumpkin, etc. We noticed that the farmers got much more yield, even when compared with plots where drip irrigation has been adopted. Then, in fact, one of my senior colleague and the present Chief Secretary, Mr. Shanmugam, he has suggested that don't try to position it as a replacement for drip irrigation, because if a farmer cannot afford or is facing some labor problems, and if he is able to afford drip irrigation, you can complement it. That is the reason why we have suggested blending. And in fact, the last visual which you might have seen, where we tried a comparison between a drip irrigation plot and a plot where drip irrigation plus the CRA technique has been compared, and we found that when the technique developed by me is blended with drip irrigation, the results are much better. In fact, I should thank Government of Tamil Nadu and my former Chief Secretary, Mrs. Girija Vaidyanathan, and the team which have selected this particular innovation. And I was given a certificate of appreciation by Government of Tamil Nadu in 2017 Independence Day by the Honorable Chief Minister, which in fact enabled its popularity among the farmers. It had a much wider reach. Today, this technique is developed in many places in Tamil Nadu. Some NGOs are trying to take it to Andhra Pradesh, Karnataka, and in Maharashtra also in a World Bank funded project. Some of those agriculture officers, they have come and then studied the results here in Tamil Nadu, and now they are trying to adopt there. And my dream is this low-cost, simple technique, which is easily adoptable by anyone, which doesn't require too much of a training, a simple explanation. In fact, the video itself is more or less self-explanatory. It will. My dream is to help the small and marginal farmers, especially in the drought-prone pockets of the country. See, you take Rajasthan, Gujarat, Maharashtra, you take the Vidarbha belt, where you have a large number of farmers' suicides. When you come to Telangana, Warangal, and a whole lot of pockets in Telangana are bad. And when you come to Andhra Pradesh, you have Rayalaseema belt, which receives the least rainfall in the country. Then in Tamil Nadu, again, we have Ramanathapuram and a whole lot, Dharmapuri, and a whole lot of districts where the agriculture is rain-fed. So if this is adopted by the farmers, I'll be extremely happy. I could have gone for commercialization of this patent by putting a bit of some materials here and there, but I felt that I should put it in public domain so that my intention, my dream of helping a small and marginal farmer will be fulfilled. And the second dream of mine to grow more trees is also fulfilled. And that too, I noticed that because of this, the trees are going much, much faster with very less water when compared with the normal systems.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you. Because most of the areas which you touched are much needed now. And as you rightly said, the drought-prone belts in different parts of India will definitely be benefited with this. So about the Tamil Nadu, about especially Chennai, alongside Kuvam, are there any projects happening? Because I remember last time when we met, you mentioned about certain saplings will be planted. Can you elaborate on that one, sir?
Yeah, I will mention about that. But one small point, I would like to go back again to this CRA technique. Sure, I would like to thank the people of Tamil Nadu. Actually, when I introduced this technique, I was the Commissioner of Revenue Administration. So they used to popularly call it a CRA technique in the rural areas of Tamil Nadu. The other important thing which we have noticed in this particular technique is, it is not only the trees that are taller, all these saplings, they have more branches, so that more leaves when compared with the normally grown saplings. And in addition to that, we found that at the individual leaf level also, the leaf is much bigger. So as a result of which, this can become a very, very useful tool to overcome climate change and its impact. Here we are able to sequester more carbon when compared with the saplings that are grown normally. not only at the individual leaf level, but also at the overall canopy that is very high. Now, coming back to the projects, come to Tamil Nadu, as I was mentioning earlier, we had this Nadandai Vari Kaveri project. We are also undertaking a Lower Bhavani restoration project. And then Kaveri Delta also, we are having a couple of projects which are being processed by our corporation. In addition to that, there is a Kuam River restoration project. Earlier, Adayar River was restored. In all these projects, one of the major focus is planting trees along the banks. It will be a combination of local species, which could be bamboo, and then a combination of teak and other things, which will not only strengthen the embankment, but also provided the much needed environmental improvement in this particular process. In fact, bamboo is supposed to be one of the plants which will release maximum oxygen. It also removes a lot of pollutants from the water, and there are other trees also which are being suggested by the forest department, which will be implemented in all these projects. Every river restoration project will have a major component of afforestation. We are also going to restore the Grand Anicut Canal. In that also, afforestation is one of the key components.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Now we move on to the third segment. The third segment
Yes.
is it's a imaginary section where like a couple of questions will be asked where you can spread your creative wings. I'm giving you a time machine with which
Okay.
you can actually go back to your past. And if you can choose 3 people who you would like to go meet and learn something from them, come back to 2020 and write a book about what you learned. Who are the 3 people who do you like to go spend time? You can spend 1 month with each person, and it can be any period.
But with reference to the service,
It can be anything, sir, which will help the youth. You can write on which will help the mankind.
the
You
future
can-
generations.
Yes, sir.
The future generation. I think
Yes,
you
sir.
have given a very important task. Okay. See, as I was mentioning to you, first of all, I will definitely meet one of our senior officer by name Mr. P.B. Rajaraman. Then the other officer whom I would like to definitely interact with will be Mrs. Girija Vaidyanathan. And then probably let me. Then the other officer is Mr. N. Narayanan. So these 3 officers, and then you see all these officers, they have made a vital contribution for the development of Tamil Nadu as part of their responsibilities. In fact, what struck me is Mr. P.V. Rajaraman, who was, besides being one of the best finance secretaries we had in Tamil Nadu, way back in 90s, he was predicting the problem of geriatrics in India. At that point of time, I was 40 plus, and I was not really, I was a bit taken aback. Why he's talking about the problem of geriatrics going to be a major challenge in the next couple of days. Then when I looked into the population profile, it struck me that here is an officer who is thinking beyond his tenure. He retired almost about 10 years back, but he was planning for the population after 15 to 20 years, which are likely to face these difficulties. So several schemes have been implemented. The other 2 officers, they have given me a tremendous encouragement in my efforts to strengthen the watershed management and tree plantation programs. Mr. Narayanan, he was the finance secretary. In fact, he has a famous quote: when any file comes, he will write, trees will not money will not grow on trees. So you can reconsider proposal later, because we were in very, very turbulent times those days. But in spite of it, whenever I used to process any file relating to Department of Environment, Forestry and Agriculture, new schemes and requiring huge funding, he used to immediately approve. And from that, I learned whatever be your financial difficulties, you should have a vision to ensure that a portion of your money is invested in new technologies and essential technologies and essential requirements. In this regard, I would like to mention one more officer by name, Mr. Jnanadesikam, who has strengthened. That time we had a lot of funds with government of Tamil Nadu. The health sector, he has done tremendous funding. He has given us a free hand. We have strengthened the regional hospital in Madurai, Rajaji Hospital, where we put specialty wards. Our intention was to decongest Chennai government hospital, the Rajaji government hospital in Chennai, and then we established several such centers in other districts so that the load on the Chennai city is brought down, and the access to latest facilities are available at the doorstep of the people. Mrs. Girija Vadanathan, she has been of tremendous support, and which has reinforced my management style is, if she analyzes an officer and then once she comes to the conclusion that he can deliver, she fully trusts that particular officer and gives him a free hand. And she has virtually given me a free hand in disaster management. And so much so that when the results are flowing, Tamil Nadu was facing a massive problem during the year 2018 due to dengue, and the number of deaths and the number of cases were increasing by leaps and bounds. That time the responsibility was entrusted to me, and with the help of all the collectors, we worked as a collective team and we could bring down. So without trust and faith and giving a free hand, no officer can perform. This is one important lesson I have learned from her, which of course it reinforced, rather I wouldn't say learn, but it reinforced my own thinking. In fact, it helps the concerned officer also to broad base their efforts. She used to focus on other areas where certain gaps were found. So that's where overall as a chief secretary, her output was much more than what it could be if she is focusing on each and every individual officer. Personally also, she has been instrumental in my going to Maxwell School, which is one of the top universities in public policy. Those days it was number one. I think probably even today it is considered to be one of the best institutions in public policy. She only suggested that I should apply for that. And then it was a very, very educative experience in Maxwell School, where I could get my MA Public Administration. And concurrently, I could do a graduate certificate in environmental decision making from State University of New York, Environmental Sciences and Forestry. And the thing which I learned there is, there is a lot of flexibility, I think, in Western countries in education. Though I went to Syracuse University, I got a degree from Syracuse University, as well as from State University of New York, which was just adjoining to this Syracuse University. I think in the present new education policy, this kind of flexibility is being given to the students to choose courses of their choice. Then even the present chief secretary, he was finance secretary when I was Commissioner Revenue Administration. Again, what stood out in him, and which I would like to probably adopt it if I was given a chance to be the finance secretary, is again, in spite of the crisis, try to invest on certain basic essential infrastructure which will ensure long-term mitigation of the problems. So these are certain things, and definitely I think the journey that I have been through has been very exhilarating. I had excellent teams in every department. I could get tremendous support. In certain institutions, we used to race against time. We were pushing ourselves to the limits, and we could do some significant contribution to the people of Tamil Nadu. Similarly, I was lucky in Government of India, my experience as DG and IPHM. It was a learning experience for me personally. I myself personally learned a lot of things in agriculture, which can ensure that the farmers can reduce their cost of production and reduce their reliance on agrochemicals. which can leave the environment to be much better than what it can be when intensive agriculture systems are adopted.
Thank you, sir. Now we move to the next segment, which is a gratitude segment. You can go ahead and thank people who have supported you, helped you, educated you, motivated you, or been with you in your milestones for you to achieve things in life. In short, like who you owe your success to. You can name them and thank them, sir. There'll be a big list, but
A
few
huge list.
people.
No person can be successful without the support of so many people in one form or the other. In fact, first and foremost, I would like to thank my parents, especially my father, who had immense faith in me. In fact, when I was doing my MSc, that time itself, he said, "Why don't you take civil service exam?" I said, "I'm interested in research." He allowed me to do research. And when I left a job to take civil service exam, he just said, "You come." During those days, also unemployment was quite high, and many people ridiculed me when I left a government of India job to take civil services exam. And his support has been immense. And obviously, my mother, she has to be there for the every child. Mother is a special role. At the same time, my family, my wife Venkata Padmavati, my son Srivatsa Sunil and daughter Sri Vidya Madhuri, they also played a very, very, very important role in whatever I could achieve. In fact, many things I left to them. My wife has she looked after the education of the children, and I had been very rather sometimes cruel also. I used to have a very hectic pace, and she had to ensure that, especially in the field, give me my tiffin box very early in the morning at about 5 o'clock, and then I used to return very late in the night. And then I left the responsibility of seeing that the children are educated to her. So these two people, this is as far as the family is concerned. And my younger brother, Mr. KVR Murthy, also has played a very important role during my civil services preparation. My close friend during my MSc days, Mr. M. Srinivas Rao, he has been very instrumental in preparation of civil service. And we were very thick right from my college days, degree second year onwards. We did MSc, then we did research together, then we prepared for civil services. And as far as the knowledge acquisition is concerned, definitely I would like to thank my Professor Hanumant Rao, who played a very important role in shaping me as a researcher. And that skill was very helpful for me during administration. This may look surprising, but the basic ingredients which he has put into me: hard work, perseverance, analyzing, looking at issues in a broader perspective with an open mind. All these things have been ingrained during those research days. And then many of my senior colleagues, especially when I was young sub-collector, my collector, Dharmapuri, Mr. Alauddin, in Madurai, my collector, Mr. Adiseshaya, and then my friend, Dr. Somanathan, who has been my colleague. Whenever I used to face an issue where I felt some consultation is required, the first and foremost person I will contacting will be only Dr. T.V. Somanathan, and he's always there for me. And similarly, I am there for him. Both of us, we have that understanding. Similarly, in the service in the academy, I picked up two very close friends. One is Dr. B. Sekar, the other one is Mr. K. N. Kumar. They have also been very instrumental in shaping my personality. And above all, I would say each and every subordinate who worked with me, sometimes I might have been a bit harsh with them. There was nothing personal in it. The time schedule, the requirement of delivery, the expectation of a particular standard might have forced me to be a bit harsh. But I always did it with the intention of reaching out to the community in the districts, and they also understood it, and they have risen up to the occasion. And whatever success I could achieve as an officer, it would have been possible without the support of these subordinate staff. I would just mention I always believe that knowledge is no one's preserve. It is not there with the designation of an officer. Once, when I was additional collector development in Dharmapuri, we were constructing group houses for the weaker sections, and invariably these houses were built slightly away from the existing habitation because we had to acquire land. And while we were doing these house construction, curing of the concrete structure used to be a very difficult exercise because water availability was itself scarce, and how do we cure it? I was scratching my head. I was deliberating openly with my subordinate staff in an open field. Then suddenly my driver said, Aya, can I make a small suggestion? He was mentioning it to me in Tamil. Aya, na oru chinna karuthu sollalaama. Enappa sollungan ketta. Aya, ஒன்றும் இல்லை ஐயா, நீங்கள் க்யூரிங் பண்ணணும், ஜெட் மாதிரி தண்ணி போகணும்னு சொல்கிறீங்கல்ல. எங்கள் கிராமத்தில் விவசாயிகள் அது நம்ம பெஸ்டிசைட்ஸ் ஒரு ராக் ப்ரொப்பலர்னு சொல்லி ஒரு ஸ்ப்ரேயர் இருக்கு ஐயா, அதில் போட்டு யூஸ் பண்ணுவாங்க. உங்களுக்கு முடிஞ்சா நீங்க இந்த தண்ணி கூட யூஸ் பண்ணலாம்னு சொல்லி சொன்னார். I was elated. I just thanked him. And then we adopted it. And in all the sites, we have procured it from the funds that were available under contingencies. And we made use that propeller, which used to conserve the water, and it used to go as a jet, and which used to cure the structure very, very well. And then every organization, I used to make it a point to discuss with the subordinate officers who were there with the department for a long time. I used to ask their suggestions. Many of them, they have come forward. They have offered their insights, which has helped me in taking certain decisions and probably reduce the time required for putting certain systems in place. So I would like to apologize to those people with whom I might have been harsh. There was nothing personal against them. And I would like to thank them as well as all those officers who have supported me. In fact, I can even today recall some officers who worked with me as sub-collector. They were so supportive. One, Mr. Satyagopal, then Nagaraj, then my Dafadar, Mr. Babu, the driver Nagaraj. So there are so many people. And as collector, one, Mr. Mohan Das, they were sacrificing their personal time for achieving certain tasks which we have fixed up. And in my last assignment as Commissioner Revenue Administration, Mrs. Lakshmi, Mr. Ratnu, Rajendra Ratnu, and Ms. Lata, all these people, they worked round the clock. And some of the state civil service officers by name, Palanichami, some retired officers by name, Mr. Gandhi Madinathan, Mr. Vaidyanathan, all these people, they stood like rock, and they put their personal comfort aside. And once they realized that we are trying to do this for the people of Tamil Nadu, they have been very nice and kind, and but for their support, I don't think whatever I have achieved is possible.
Thank you so much, sir, for quoting from a person who worked with you on an equal grade to above, and a person who reported to you all the way up to the Dafadar. A lot to learn from this, especially the way you explained that. So thank you so much. And I requested 60 minutes of your time to share, especially focused on water and also about your life journey and the lessons learned. We just touched 60 minutes. Thank you so much for sharing all these information in such a short time in an interesting manner. And of course, you have given your email ID, ksatyagopal@gmail.com. If anybody is interested to get in touch with you and regard with this plantation, I mean, like,
water conserving root zone irrigation technique.
Water conserving CRA technique.
Root zone CRA technique.
Cost innovation, of growing trees faster with less water. They can contact you, sir. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much. Any closing remarks, sir? Message to the world.
I would like to thank you. This has been a wonderful opportunity that you have given. It's an occasion where I think probably I have traveled almost 30 years. Suddenly you put me in an embarrassing situation by putting me in a time machine. But I think I hope I have done justice to some of my colleagues from whom I have learned a lot and who have been very helpful to me. And definitely I take this opportunity through your media. Anyone who is interested in growing trees, that too with less water, and people where they're having drought, if they're interested, I can definitely share my technique with them. In fact, during 2017 drought in Tamil Nadu, in Coimbatore and Tirupur, we could save large number of existing coconut trees with this technique. Thank you.
Thanks, sir. That was Dr. Korlapati Satyagopal ji. I've met him a couple of times during the disaster management related projects a few months before. An interesting person and highly passionate about coming up with this system where with less water, where the more trees can be grown in a quicker time period. Definitely, please do contact him, and he'll be definitely glad to guide us and to help Tamil Nadu or India at large to become more greener and combat climate change. Thank you.